Welcome to Shaky Sports Journeys. What a guest I've got for you today. Ex-world champion boxer, big face of the zone boxing now as well, ex-matchroom fighter. He's done it all in the game. We're going to talk about it today. I say hello to Tony, the bomber Bellew. How are you, sir?
How are you, Cass? I'm okay, thanks, mate. Just always busy, always doing something, and literally just got one of my kids to bed now, so one out the four.
You're doing well, mate. You're doing well. I can only imagine the juggling you and your missus need to do with four boys. You were at football training earlier with the wee man.
Yep.
Then you were rushing home. But listen, I really appreciate your time, mate. Really appreciate your
Okay.
time.
Pleasure. Yeah, listen, I'm very fortunate that I've got a partner that I've been with for 20 years, understands the things that are needed to be put in place, and she's a fantastic mother to them, to be fair. They couldn't ask for a better mother. Uh, I've been a part-time father for nearly most of their lives. I mean, it's only been since the pandemic and since I retired, I would say I've been a proper dad. I've been home, I've been here to represent from a father's point of view and perspective. Uh, the parents' evenings, the kids' classes, the football practice with them, the football training, I've attended them all. So, yeah, these last few years have been fantastic for me. They really have. I've enjoyed them, and I was made up. I got to spend the last couple of years, well, the last 3 years with me eldest lad who's now 16. I felt like I got to know him in the last 4 years. I really do, because I've spent so much time with him. So yeah, it's been great, but it's very, very challenging. My parenthood is the most difficult task on planet Earth.
Yeah, no, listen, mate. I agree. I agree. My wife's doing me a favour and putting my daughter down, even though it's my night to do it. So I've dodged that one tonight. So what I want to do, Tony, is I want to take you on a wee journey. But when we get into your actual pro boxing career, I've just picked out some of my favourites, some of the biggest rivalries, because I could probably end up talking to you for a day about boxing, but you don't have that kind of time, mate. So, but let's start a bit about your childhood.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this out there, Tony. You strike me as the kind of guy that we would call up in Glasgow a bit of a scrapper from young
Yeah.
days. I could just imagine you getting up to no good. But tell me a bit about your childhood.
Do you know what? I had a pretty basic childhood. I wasn't a bad kid, but I was cheeky. I always had an answer for everything, and I was only ever too willing to take part in a fight. I enjoyed fighting from a young age. It was something that I always thought all my mates kind of didn't really want to do. They would do it if it was forced upon them, but when it was forced on me, I actually enjoyed it. And it wasn't a worry, or it wasn't a scare. I wasn't frightened. I actually enjoyed chinning people, and that's how it started off, mate. And as I say, I grew up in some of the toughest parts of Liverpool. I was born in Toxteth and raised in Wavertree, and then spent massive amounts of my childhood going back to Toxteth in the youth centres and stuff like that, kickboxing and just doing things that kids usually tend to do to impress the fathers, really. And that was about it, mate. It just led on and on and on from there. And before you knew it, I was engulfed in the crazy game called boxing, and I never looked back after that.
What age were you when you entered the gym first?
I kickboxed first at a really young age for a guy called Alfie Lewis, who was a fantastic kickboxer, probably the greatest kickboxer this country's ever produced. He was a friend of my father's and a business partner of my father's, and yeah, I kickboxed for him, and it was quite evident from then on. I had really talented hand speed, and I could punch really hard even as a kid. And yeah, that was it, mate. I'd done kickboxing for a little bit. Got disqualified in the last couple of contests kickboxing for knocking people down with punches or knocking them out, and then chose to go to a boxing gym. I didn't really take boxing seriously until I got to about 14, 15. I just It was so hard, it was so difficult, the training. And then at 15 I thought, I've been expelled from school, I better give this a go. I mean, just before I got expelled from school, I think I'd have two amateur fights, and I'd won both of them by knockout. And that's very, very rare in the amateur game, that someone would have the first two fights and win them both, especially by knockout. And knockouts very rarely happen in the amateurs, and I was just flattening people for fun. So yeah, it was an eye opener, but I chose to dedicate myself to it up on being permanently excluded from school. Excuse me, sorry, being punches. Yeah, upon permanently being excluded from school, that's when I decided, this is what I'm gonna do. It's better than the life that I'm living in and amongst on the streets of Liverpool. I was a kid off Lawrence Road, Earl Road, the Rodney and Talk in the middle, Bang in the middle of Toxteth. Yeah, they were all places where it was evident what everyone was up to in them days. You know, the lads. There was very few. I never ever grew up with people like who. There was never no doctors around by where I live, lad. There was never no people who would become pharmacists and lawyers and just higher education just wasn't the key in our area. You know, lads were going out and selling drugs and doing mad things, and the lads who had drove nice cars and had Rolexes, they sold drugs, and that was the way it was. And there was a couple of ways out of where we're from, and one of them was playing football. There wasn't really many boxers from where I'm from, being totally honest. I loved boxing from a young age. I idolised the likes of Mike Tyson, Nigel Benn, all them fighters I watched and studied religiously growing up. Like, so I was watching American fighters before anyone had even heard of them. You know, people hadn't even heard of Roy Jones Jr. before I was studying them and watching them. You like your James Tonys, your Iran Barclays, all these fighters and your Mike McCallums. I was studying them, watching them, how they moved, what they'd done when I was like 15, 16, and the things that they were doing in the ring. And I was trying to be an imposter of each and every one of them every time I went to the gym. I was faking being them. I would go to the gym, I would work on things that I'd studied, watching them do it. Bit by bit, it caught on and on and on. And before you knew it, I became an encyclopedia for boxing. I knew everything and anything about everyone. I used to have fighters phone me up and ask me about certain other fighters who were fighting in the professional ranks, because I knew more than some of the pros would know about their own guys they were facing. It's mad. But yeah, that's how it went, mate. I gave boxing everything I possibly had. You know, I had
It's
no
interesting.
regrets.
It's interesting because you you didn't go down the academic route, but you went down the academic route of boxing. You didn't just go in as somebody who didn't know what they were doing. You've studied it and you had deep knowledge about it. So that was only going to help you in your career as well. So you had the knock, you had the power, amateur power. Like you say, you don't see many people getting knocked down amateurs. Tell me a wee bit about your amateur journey then and where it took you.
I started off at a place called Stockbridge ABC under the tutelage of a man called Mark Kinney, and he was a brilliant coach. Mark Kinney went on to train some people like Rampage Jackson in the UFC, Michael Bisping. He was a really, really good boxing coach, and the reason I left, what happened is he got a job at somewhere called Jaguar in Liverpool, and we started to work shifts, so he could no longer be a permanent fixture in the amateur boxing gym Stockbridge ABC. So upon him telling me this, that he got this job, he said, you know, I'll still see you once a fortnight. You know, for 1 week every fortnight, I'll be with you. It'll be a week on, week off, week on, week off. And I was like, for me to keep progressing the way I do, I need someone who's hands-on 24/7, who's a boxing coach, and he's around me every session, every time I'm in the gym. And I went to somewhere called Rotunda ABC. Upon going there, I got my eyes open, to be honest. I went there as a 4 or 5-1 boxer. My last contest with Stockbridge JBC, I got disqualified for headbutting an opponent who spat in my face. A bit of a mad one, to be fair. Both of us should have been thrown out, but it is what it is. A long, long time ago. And I went to Stockbridge. I went to Rotunda from there. I loved being around Mark Kinney and I loved being in Stockbridge JBC, but I kind of felt like I was a big fish in a small pond. I was the name in the gym, and I'd only had 4 or 5 amateur fights, but I was just smashing everybody at the time. When I went to Rotunda ABC, I joined a club with multiple national champions, from the Smith brothers to Joe Selkirk to Declan O'Rourke to Joseph McNally to Paul Keir to Mick Whitty, all these international champions, boxing for the country, boxing for the club, going around the world. I was like, I'm joining a club now that's reputable. I'm a big, you know, I'm no one in this club when I turned up there. I wasn't even in the top 5 boxers in the gym, never mind one of the best. And I had to slowly build and progress and learn how to train, and I understood why the gym was so renowned and so good. Yeah, and that I just went on and on from there. Going to the Sunday ABC changed my life. Linking up with a man called Jimmy Albertina. It is the guy, after what my kids have defaced, me mouse pad. That's me in the middle. Uh, and the guy who hasn't been defaced is Jimmy Albertina. This guy right here.
Right, okay.
That's Mick McAllister. He come with me to the pros for a bit. He was a brilliant coach. Myself, obviously, but that was Jimmy. That's the legend on my
So how
mouse
old are
pad.
you in that? How old are you in that picture?
On that picture, I am 19 years old. 18 or 19 years old.
Wow.
Uh, and representing him for Rotunda, for him, and being around him was the best thing that ever happened in my whole life with regards to me boxing. He was a brilliant figure for us all in the gym. There's not a day that goes by that I guarantee the Rotunda boy doesn't think of Jimmy Albertine at some point in the day.
That's class. That's class. That's what it's all about. These people have such an effect on so many people's lives. You being one of them, obviously.
Oh, mate, he was massive for us all. And I say Jimmy's been dead a long, long time now, but he'll never ever leave me side. And he'll never ever leave me memory completely. I'm still quite close to his sons and his Mrs. Bernie. Yeah, so that gym definitely changed my mentality on boxing. Let me know I was good enough, because if anything, I was just giving it a go because it was the last avenue I could pursue without doing the wrong things in life. And he made me believe in myself and showed me that if I'm willing to work hard enough, I can do it. And ultimately did let me know that I had the ability. Never told me to my face, but he told other people that he thought I had the ability, and it worked out all right. He seems like he was right. But
that was going to be my next question. Did you, at 19, 20 years old, could you have imagined where your boxing career, which we're going to talk about a bit more in the pros, could you imagine the heights that you would have achieved?
Not at 19, 20. I think the big thing about it was, for me, is I was boxing. I won my first ABA title at 20 years of age, or 21 years of age.
Wow.
And I won it in my 16th amateur fight. So I went into the ABAs with 12 amateur fights. That's unheard of. You don't enter the full senior ABAs with 12 amateur fights. You're fighting the best fights in the country for the national championship. I jumped up 10 kilos in the space of 3 days, and I fought the best heavyweights in the country. And I fought, in my first year in the ABAs, I fought the reigning and defending ABA champion. His name was Mick O'Connell. He was in the Royal Marines or Navy, whatever he was in. And I bounced him from pillar to post and beat him
Bloody hell.
in the final.
He must have been a hard man as well.
He was, mate. I remember us boxing in the semi-final in Portsmouth, and I fought a guy called Junior MacDonald, and he fought a guy, I forget the guy he fought's name, and I remember thinking, okay, we boxed each other, and then there was like a social club or social place next door, and all my friends who had come down to support me all went to the social club. They were all drinking in there, and obviously I've gone in there to say thanks to them for supporting me and coming, and my coaches were in there having a pint celebrating me getting to the final. And upon that, we sees Mick O'Connell in there, proper, Marine, proper soldier. He's having a pint and he's smoking a ciggy. It was mad. I couldn't believe it. And he said to me, go up to him and just say to him, good luck for next week, lad, and just give him a little wink and let him know that you're watching him drink and watching him smoke. And I was like, sad, in them days, you'd only fought 4 2-minute rounds, so you could get away with these kind of things, because he was reigning ABA champion, boxing for England and his country, going around the world, and doing everything else. He thought he'd just get away with it, and he thought he was going to beat me. He thought I was a no one. I was a kid who was 15 and won as an amateur, and no one knew anything about me. And I just went up and went, have a lovely night, lad. I'm the fella boxing you next week in the final. I'll see you then. Put my hand out, shook his hand, made sure I gripped his hand as firmly as I possibly could. Shook it, give him a little wink and got off. And next time I seen him was in a boxing ring at Wembley Arena, and I boxed his socks off. I absolutely smashed them all over the ring, and yeah, that was the job done. I boxed him again, and 12 months later I knocked him clean out in 2 rounds. I put him asleep the second time I boxed him. Just my confidence had gone through the roof after winning that ABA title. So yeah, I had a really good amateur career. I actually over-exceeded, if anything, as an amateur, because my style was never suited to the amateur ranks. I was never a tip-tappy puncher and point scorer. I was someone who went in a boxing ring and wants to hurt you. I wanted to wreak havoc and cause damage immediately when I put my hands on you. And the amateur boxing system at the 4-2s rate was about point scoring and being cute. That just weren't me. So yeah, I mean, done great as an amateur. Had a lovely, wonderful time. Represented my country all around the world. Been on numerous continents. Won medals. And yeah, I never lost a dual international. On my dual international victory list, America, Canada, Poland, Russia, Hungary. There's loads. There's a few more that I'm forgetting. Unfortunately, I beat the number 1 Scotsman in Scotland. I knocked him out after being 10 points down.
Who was that? What's the name?
Steve Simmons.
Steve Simmons.
I remember boxing Simo in Scotland, and he was boxing the head off me. He was absolutely jabbing the face off me. I just won my first ABA title, and to be totally honest, was absolutely blind, stinking drunk, celebrating my ABA championship, and got a letter after winning the ABA title while drinking a bottle of champagne that you're going to box next week. I had no idea about anything. They said, you're going to represent England in the Four Nations next week. And I was like, don't be stupid, represent for England. I said, I'm celebrating me winning my ABA title. They said, if you don't want to do it, then we give it to Mick O'Connell, the losing finalist. I said, no, I'll do it. Finish me champagne. And off I went to Scotland in the year.
Edinburgh. Was that what you mean in Edinburgh?
I think it was, yeah. And Steve Simmons, I say, was boxing the head off me. I think he was 9 or 10 points up coming into the third round. I copped him with a left hook, and that was the end of him. He was out. Really good.
He had a decent career. He had a really good career. He had. He was good. He was a steady fighter, but warrior attitude. But he was quite handy. Good jab, very good jab on him.
Good jab, strong boy. It was unfortunate, to be fair. It was very, very unfortunate. Could have done more in the pro game, but it's just the matches that are made for you, how you adapt, how you adjust. And for me personally, I was always set for the pros. I had a punch that could detonate at any moment, and no matter where I was in trouble, I always had that equaliser, and that was a massive factor. And then,
well, listen, we never forget. I carry power. That was the one. That was brilliant.
I actually, as time went on, I massively improved my boxing IQ through studying, through watching fighters, fight by fight. I always progressed, coach by coach. I progressed even faster. My last 5-6 years under Dave Caldwell, there was a massive transformation in my style. I paid much more attention to the defensive side of boxing, counter punching, and I became a ruthless counter puncher, a nasty one as well. And I paid dividends, mate. It really did. So very, very fortunate to be in a position to improve the way I did at the time that I did, and also at the rate that I did as well.
Brilliant to hear. What we're going to do now is we're going to leapfrog probably quite a few fights, and we're going to get right into the tasty stuff. Now, where I really, really started connecting with you, Tony, and your career was when there was a call-off for the Cleverly fight, and in comes this lanky, skinny Scouser who just looks like he wants to have a fight right there and then. I mean, but I see as boxing fans, you love to see a bit of that. It brings the buzz. And it didn't look like you were just doing it for the cameras. I mean, you came in, there was a bit of words between you, but you two just, that rivalry just connected. I mean, you called him the perfect athlete. And you just kept saying, I'm just a fat overweight Scouser, and it seemed to me that he looked down on you a bit when you first walked in. And it seemed to me that you were there to say, I'll be letting you know who I am soon. But take me back to that press conference, because that was fiery.
That press conference when I jumped in at 3 days' notice, I lost 16 pounds in 16 hours, and I had another 5 pounds to go, and I just couldn't get it off anymore. The reason I jumped out my seat and called him a rat is because if you watch the press conference back, he says to me, "I tell you what, I'll take you in the car park right now." The minute them words come out of his mouth, I've lost it. I mean, I want to kill him right there and then. I want to do it straight away. And the only time I've acted in my whole life was in the movie Creed. It's the only time I've acted. None of my career was staged. None of the rivalries were fake. They were all real. I still think he's a bit of an arsehole even to this day. I don't get on with him. I don't really like him. He always looked down his nose at me. And I feel like he looked down his nose. I think he's got this thing that he thinks his maths degree put him above me. I don't care what your academic qualifications are, mate. I don't care. You're just either a good person or a bad person. And he treated me badly at times, and the things he said about me I didn't like, and I could have said so much more nasty stuff about him, but I won't. And as time goes on, I only wish him well these days, but he's not a friend. We don't speak or nothing like that. He's just, I don't wish anyone bad these days. I haven't got the time, but I'd love to punch him in the face one more time, like, I'm not going to lie.
Let's go into the fight. I remember watching the fight. It was a good, the first fight was a bloody good fight. I had you, and I'm not just saying this because you're on screen, I'm at a safe distance from you anyway, but I had you tipping it. It was close, but I had you tipping it. And he got the unanimous decision.
I think I'm in the history of boxing, I'm the only ever hometown fighter who, when he's in a close fight, he doesn't get the decision. I've had 2 razor close fights in my career, both in my hometown of Liverpool. One of them was Cleverly, one of them was Chilemba. One was a loss, one was a draw. I just couldn't believe I'm the hometown fighter. I've got a razor tight decision, and both fights I think I've done enough, even though they are close. I think I've just been the better boxer in the fight, or I've done that bit more. That's the feeling that I had after the Cleverly first fight. So, because it was the first loss in my career on paper, I didn't really class it as a loss. I didn't feel like a loss. I came out the house the next day. I didn't feel like a loser. I felt like I'd been robbed is too strong of a word. I just felt like I'd been done a disservice. I didn't think like the boxing judges were watching the fight properly. I didn't think they gave me credit for my boxing. Because I was just labelled as a pure as a puncher going into that fight. I had a puncher's chance. I could never outbox this great champion who Nathan was undefeated. You know, he's got this maths degree behind him. He's so clever and he does this and he does that great. And I just knew I was a better boxer than him. My boxing brain was far greater than his. But yeah, I didn't get the decision made, so back to the drawing board. That was my last fight ever under the ban at the time was Sports Network, Frank Warren. And there was a line drawn in the sand literally between us. And certain things that came out in court and got said afterwards that as soon as I won my case in court, I became a free agent. And the first thing I done, mate, was link up with Eddie Hearn and come across Barry Hearn. And I always knew the Matchroom brand and knew Barry Hearn was. He's a legend of not only British boxing.
Shout out to Barry as well for putting me in touch with you, my man. What a man, what a man.
He's a brilliant fella and he's always been there to give me advice at certain times in my career. Even since retirement, he's there to give me advice. He's someone who I class as a very, very good friend and a family friend as well. So, yeah, I was very fortunate to link up with them because it took a long time to trust again after that line being drawn in the sand with the previous promoter, going to court, getting free, fighting for me right just to be able to fight. And yeah, mate, scary, scary times, long, lonely, dark nights in that period.
Is that the ruthless side of boxing, Tony, that you hear about a lot? It's got a lot of dirty business that goes on.
Horrible, mate. You've got to understand you're dealing with a kid who's come from the street. He's amassed a bit of money for himself, and then he finds himself in court with the threat of losing everything. And every week that goes by in court, it keeps costing you thousands upon thousands of pounds, whether it's barristers, legal letters arriving at your door, and Frank just keeps putting the pressure on legally all the time. And when you haven't got that money and you don't know any different, it's petrifying, mate. Because if I'd have lost to him in court, which could have happened, because even though the case was so overwhelming, the boxing board still didn't have the bollocks to put the foot down and go, you haven't done right here. They wouldn't cross him. So I had to go to a proper court, a law court, and fight him there because the boxing board wouldn't do their job. And yeah, mate, it was very, very hard. As I say, if I'd have lost to him in court, I'd have retired from boxing. Oof. I'd have never fought again. So that's how to and fro it was. But thankfully, the courts made the right decision, and I was able to crack on with my career, mate, and get rid of him. So best move I ever done. And I say it took a long, long time for me to trust Eddie in. It really, because when I first come across him, I just thought, it's another cockney telling me what I want to hear. I'm just going to tell the truth. That's what I thought. Another wide boy coming in, tell me what I want to hear, and that's it. The first thing I noticed was he paid me on time every time, and I thought, all right, well, give him 3 or 4 times. I'm sure he'd be late on the 5th or 6th one. On time, everything he said he'd do, he'd done. Every amount we agreed on, we shook hands on, he paid. We'd never ever had a contract. I didn't want to sign a contract.
I heard him saying that actually on a pod, just on a recording just the other day, and he said how guys like yourself it was just a fight to fight deal, but the fact that you stayed with him that long,
it wasn't even a fight by fight deal, mate. I just didn't sign a contract. And when I became world champion, he said, Tony, you're not supposed to sign a contract now. And I said, you really going to ask me to sign a contract now? And he said, I'm not. He said, but we are supposed to have when you're world champion. And then I got a phone call off a guy one night, once I'm world champion, offering me enormous amounts of money to fight David Haye on BT box office. And enormous amounts of money, like life-changing money. And I said, no. And he said, why? And I said, because I've got a deal with Eddie Hearn. We shook hands. He said, Tony, have you got a contract? I said, no, we don't have no contract. He said, well, why don't you do it? I said, because I gave this man my word that I ain't leaving you until one of us do each other wrong. Or if I'm not happy or you're not happy, that's when we're split. He said, but I'm offering you the deal that's 10 times you've ever earned. I said, I know, yeah, but I'm not going to renegade on my word. So I phoned Eddie, and Eddie said, Tone, you should take it. And I said, I'm not going to take it. And he said, why? I said, because I told you. I said that I'm going to finish this game with you, and that's going to be the end of it. And he went, but I'm advising you to take this money. I can't pay you the millions of pounds you're being offered. And I said, I know you can't, sir, but now that I know David wants to fight me, I've got him. He's bit. He's finally got. So this fella's come. I said, now he's going to have to deal with you because he sees the value in the fight between me and him. And that was it, mate. I mean, trust is earned. Trust is earned. And Eddie's earned mine, and I've earned his. You know,
Well, it's got to be that way because the amount of breakups you hear in boxing every other day, a promoter, there's, I think, even Terence Crawford, I think he's probably going to be leaving Bob Arum, it looks like. They look like they're parting ways. They've been together for years. Even Pac-Man, by the end of his career, went away. You know about we all know about Oscar De La Hoya and all the stuff that happened with him. So the fact that you and Eddie have maintained that relationship, as much as people boo him, he's clearly does good business, and he does all.
Amazing, mate.
So you can't fault him.
The one thing I can say, the best compliment that I can give matchroom boxing and matchroom sports as a whole, they're honest. And what they say you're getting, you get. Simple as that. They're honest.
What more can you ask for? What more can you ask for?
Just honesty and getting paid on time, and the amount you've agreed on. That's all that matters, mate. And I say, when they're the only boxing promotional company in the world who allowed a boxer to become the boss. The only one out of all the big promoters that have ever lived, no boxing promoter has ever said, right, show me a boxing promoter. Eddie Hearn will say this, and I know a lot of boxing promoters will never do it, but Eddie Hearn will. Eddie Hearn says that once you get to a certain level, you become my boss. Eddie tells the boxers that. Eddie says, I work for you. You show me another boxing promoter in the whole way. Try and get Bob Arum to say that Lomachenko is his boss.
No chance.
Or try and get Bob Arum to say that Manny Pacquiao is my boss. Try and get Don King to say Mike Tyson was his boss. These guys don't do it, mate. They're too busy, doing what they're doing, taking X amount of deals, doing this, doing that to make their money on the back of the boxer. Eddie Hearn will quite gladly do all the work, take his cut and percentage, which in the grand scheme of things is extremely fair, and he will say, yeah, I work for him. This is not my bill, this is the fighter's bill, but I do my job as the promoter and I do my part. And he's one of a kind in the world of boxing. He's literally the only man in the whole world of boxing that could actually save it and do something like Dana White's done in the UFC. He could do with boxing. The only difference is he would pay the boxers fairly. The boxer would get what... That's the wrong word to use because the UFC fighters are paid fairly. But I'm saying the boxers would get what they're worth. What they generate, they'll get. And Eddie Hearn is the only promoter in the world possible who would be able to do that, in my opinion.
Well, listen, rejecting that offer, loyalty goes a long way. Because from what I see, we're going to get on to talking about your career went on to make a few pretty pennies anyway. So your loyalty was good, but obviously you had to deliver as a fighter as well. We touched on it a little bit. I'll touch on it because I don't really want to go into it too much because they were two of the more boring fights I've ever watched yours, and I don't mean that in any disrespect. The Lemba fight, the draw, the first one, it was like you were trying to make a fight of it pretty much throughout the fight, but he just didn't want to fight, and it was just...
I never ever make excuses for fights, but I don't remember anything from that fight, anything of the night. My mother-in-law had been in a coma for about a month, and she woke up the day before that fight. Rachel's mum, and it was just mad because I was so weight trained and dead at the weight. It killed me making weight for that fight. I had 6 rounds in me. I only know what happened because I watched the fight back on tape. The last thing I remember was waking up on the day of the fight and thinking it's finally here. I don't remember anything else. I don't remember fighting. I don't remember being in the dressing room. I don't remember the drive home. I don't remember anything. It's blank. It's gone.
But that's mental. Like, what? I get you're a fighter, but your missus, your mother-in-law, that's pretty much your mum, and for a month she's been in that condition, and you're leading into a fight. How did you even train or keep your head in the game?
You just have to put it out here, back of your mind. I was very good at going to camp and switching off. I was a selfish man, Kasim, to be totally honest. I'd go away to camp and I would just leave me alone. I was selfish, and I was so driven on becoming world champion. Everything nothing else mattered. Until I became world champion, nothing else in the world mattered. I put boxing first. Now fighters will say, "Oh yeah, I do it for my family. I've done it for this reason. I've done it for that reason." No, I didn't. I've done it for me. They didn't have the dream or the wanting to become world champion when they were 16 years old. My kids weren't born with silver spoons. They didn't want this or want that. I wanted it, and I chased it and chased it till I got it. I gave everything up to get it. It's very embarrassing in hindsight looking back, because I say I've got a wife, I've got kids. I had 3 kids when I was fighting, and boxing came before them. If there's a kids' night out, if there's a school play to attend, if there's a parent evening to attend, I'm not there. I'm busy in boxing. I'm training. Come home from training, I'm tired, can't go out today, I'm not doing nothing. I'm staying resting on the couch, I've got to rest. Dad, can we go here, can we go there? No, I've got to go and do my second sessions and I've got to train. It's the weekend, can I play football? My eldest kid didn't start playing competitive football till he was 14, because I wasn't here at weekends. I was training, I was working, I was doing this, I was busy, I was too tired to take him anywhere. And that just went on and on and on for years. So it's hard to admit it, but I do admit it, and I look back and I think, as I say, people say, yeah, but look what they've got now. You have no idea how much I've sacrificed to get where I've got and got what I've got. No one will ever understand that sacrifice of just not being there for your kids, and also going through hard times in life, like losing my brother-in-law, not being around and being there for me missus 100% when she needed me the most. I was still focused on fighting, and they're the things, they're the sides that people don't really see, to be honest. But it is what it is, mate. You just have to learn to live with it, get on with things, and make the best of it. Like I said, I don't have any regrets. What I do have is what's the word that uses? Disappointment in myself at times, just purely because I could have handled things better. But this is life. I'm not perfect. I don't profess to be or pretend to be. It's just the way things are, mate, and the way things were meant to be honest. Boxing was what I was meant to do, and I've done it to the best of my ability.
Well, listen, shout out to your good lady, because it takes a really good wife to
Without doubt.
see, because that's not easy. It's not easy being at home with all the kids. And I know you would travel to Rotherham and Sheffield a lot of the time, so you would spend time in your training camp away from home. So that would have been really tough. So big respect to your good lady. She's
I would just get in the car, mate, and go. I would just get in the car and just leave. And I'd just be there Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Even if I came home on a Wednesday, I wasn't really here, because all I was focused on was the next fight. That's all I was focused on. That's all I cared about. Win the next fight, win the next fight. And my life was just a constant revolving door. Fight. If you look at my career from when I turned pro, I think the longest I ever had out of the ring was 6 months, and that's purely because I broke my hand and I needed time to heal. The other time I was out the ring for a while, I defeated Cleverly in the rematch, and then I went and shot the movie Creed. So I'll be Cleverly in the November, if I'm correct. I went and started shooting the movie in December, came home for Christmas and New Year, went back, done the movie January to March, and then I think I was out in May, June in a warm-up.
While we're on that subject, because that is something I'm going to ask you about. Listen, we've got to ask you about that. Tell her, don't waste my time. That tune you came into as well, the way the lights came on, that was something else. What was it like? What was it like meeting Sly Stallone?
Ryan Coogler, the director, wanted the track for me to come out to, but he wanted it to relate to the UK fans, and I said, well, it's got to be a UK rapper.
Yeah.
And Wretch 32 is a friend of mine. I wanted him to do it at first, but the turnaround time wasn't long enough. So I thought, don't waste my time. It literally just dropped when I was shooting the movie Creed.
Right, okay.
And the way it was portrayed in the movie, I'm the pound for pound #1 king, Pretty Ricky Conlon.
Yeah.
And me fighting Adonis Creed was looking on the way the movie was getting played out, so it was a waste of time. The only reason he's getting the shot is because he's Apollo Creed's son.
And you were doing it for that paycheck.
I was doing it for the money before I went to jail, and before you knew it, it's that "Don't Waste My Time" track just fitted in absolutely perfectly. So Captain Conan done a great job. The movie was mad, man. Doing it was crazy. Making movies is harder than it looks. I lived in Philadelphia for 3 months, didn't come home for a single day, didn't have my family with me, I was on my own in Philadelphia. I had a friend with me for the last 6 weeks I shot the movie. But a long time I spent in Philly. A very, very hard, long time. Trained hard, was in great shape. But yeah, just I look back on it now with great memories. you know, being around the likes of Sylvester Stallone, Michael B. Jordan, Ryan Coogler, the director. It was just it was an amazing time. Erwin Winkler, Robert Chartoff, legends of the movie game, MGM, Warner Brothers. It's just the things I've seen and done there was just fantastic. So yeah, great
What's
memories.
Sly Stallone like? Is a down to earth guy?
Oh,
Chill.
he's lovely with me, mate. He treated me impeccably. I'm a huge Rambo fan as well, so I was always in awe of him. He was fantastic, mate. Really good. He's got a high regard for people in combat sports. Knows a lot of wrestlers. Is friends with an awful lot of them. Loves the boxing game. Knows the game inside out. Can go way back in the history and times of boxing. He's really knowledgeable, mate, and I say a really good person to me. Helped me from the acting side of things. Showed me what improvisation was and just little tweaks and things for boxing. And yeah, I enjoyed it, mate. It was great.
Listen, you were perfect for the role. That bad boy Scouser just came into that movie perfectly, mate. It was brilliant. I'm going to talk to you about one kind of bad night
Yeah,
that happened. I want to talk about the press conference beforehand. It was a fight I was buzzing for.
yeah,
And that was when you fought Adonis Stevenson.
yeah.
Now, that was another fiery press conference. I don't know if you were hungry, Tony, or what, because you looked weight drained, like
Oh,
big
mate.
time.
Yeah.
But take me back to the press conference. What happened there?
In the press conference, it wasn't too bad. The press conference, we were pretty, you know, I was back and forth with his friend. It was his friend who was more on me, one of the backslappers and bum boys in his squad. This fella had never had a decent fight in his life. He was just an idiot who was making a lot of noise. He was Adonis's version of Crocodile Finch, so he was just a blag version, really, and he was dreadful. But he was saying certain things to me. I got a little bit of information on him that James Toney had actually smashed his girlfriend. So I chose when he walks at the press conference. I found this out after the press conference. So the next day was the weigh-in, and at the weigh-in, as this guy's coming in, he's giving it the big one. He's shouting all over the place. Adonis was pretty quiet, to be fair, and I just said to his friend, "Is James Toney still slapping your bird's ass, smacking your bitch's ass?" And he must have got wind of it, and he went crazy. And I was going, "What are you gonna do, you fat tit? I'll punch you all over the place." And then Adonis took offence to me saying that to his friend. Obviously it must have hit home personally really hard. I think James Toney had taken his girlfriend away from him and then got rid of her. So yeah, it's I find little personal things out like that about his team. Done it, used it against him, and then Adonis gets close to me and gets in my face, and as he puts his face on me, he kind of nudges me on the nose. So I just pulled my head back as far as I could and smashed it right into his face. But you got to understand, mate. I'm not someone who for every action there's a reaction. I'm not the kind of person who you want to push and prod because I will react. Still to this day, I'm don't believe that I'm some kind of celebrity and I can just say and let things go. It's not going to happen. I mean,
Listen, I phoned you. I phoned you at 9 o'clock this morning. The thinking was, right? The thinking was, I'll catch Tony before his day starts. You've answered the phone out of breath. Who's that? I'm like, it's Kasim. I'm in the gym. I'm telling you, I was like, no bother, Tony, man. That's it.
do you know what, mate? I was coming towards the end of my session, and the lad who was training me was killing me in the gym. I was on a high intense interval training session this morning, an absolute killer. 30 seconds on the air down bike non-stop, all out. 30-second of ball slams, 30 seconds of burpees, 30 seconds of shadow boxing with 5 key weights in my hand, and then a minute of shadow boxing.
I've been seeing some of your posts of some of your training you've been doing. It looks ruthless, mate.
Trust me, it was horrendous. And I actually answered your phone to you on this, me watch. So that's how that's why I was going, because I couldn't realise who it was, so the name didn't come, just a number came up on me phone, on me watch, and I was like, hello, who's this? Kasim, I'm busy, I'm training, I'll speak to you later. So
it was a wee bit more like, who's this? It was just like, I'll speak to that with right, Tony, I'll take your lead on that, pal.
I can only apologise, mate.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
It's the way I am, mate. It's just like, for instance, I was at work in the boxing last month, and Conor Ben's working with me for the Zone. He was our guest on for the week, and as we're on stage, we're chatting and talking. I love Conor Ben. I idolised his father. His father's unbelievable, and I love him. He's such a lovely kid. Nigel's amazing. So I'm talking to Conor, and then this guy goes, he's in the crowd, Tony, and I went, how are you, mate? And I put my thumb up to him, and he just went to me, fuck you, put his finger up to me like that. So I said, Sad, I'll be down now. And he went, come on then, come down. took my jacket off, bump, right down. As I've got down, he's ran into the crowd, that fat prick.
Yeah.
And as he's run, so Connor says to me, Tom, what are you going to do? He said, what was you going to do? I said, I'm going to knock him out. I said, I'm going to chin him. He said, you can't do things like that. I said, no, you have to understand, mate. You can't treat me a certain way and expect it to just be okay. You can't treat people like that. I would never dream of doing that to someone or treating someone like that. For every action, there's a reaction. He was going to get my reaction, and it would have been to chin him. There's no two ways about it. Don't get me wrong. I would have put it on him, and then he would have had to react first. And the size of him, I'd have seen it coming a mile away, made him miss, then I'd have cracked him. Then that's called self-defense. But, you know, I wouldn't have struck him first. He had to have strike me or throw a punch at me. But you can't do that to people. And this is what I'm saying. I'm not someone to be messed with. I don't profess to be this big hard case, because I'm not. There's always a tougher and harder man than me right round the corner. But what I do profess to be is someone who you can't fuck about with me. You can't degrade me. You can't put me down. I'm tough enough on myself, and I'm hard enough on myself for anyone to knock me down any further than I already think of myself. So if you ever try and knock me down or degrade me, believe you me, I'm going to fight fire with fire immediately. And that's just the way I am. It's just one of my traits. And sometimes I wish I could change that. But
You must. I've seen you some nights struggling on social media because all the wee shits on social media think they can get, and it does even. But I think you've got the mindset now that this is just fake, and
yeah,
it is what it is. I've heard you say that a few times, and I'll just kind of not let it, because you've got a big, massive following. You're going to get wee idiots that are going to, and it's always from fake accounts as well. You don't even know who the hell it is.
It's crazy, mate. I mean, I've learned the hard way, but 100%, social media is not real. Pay more attention to what's inside the four walls of your house. Pay more attention to the people that you're actually sitting with. Spend less time doing this and spend more time doing this and talking to what's around you.
That's something I need to work on. I'm back.
It's hard, mate. It is really hard. And if my missus was sitting here now, she'd go, "You absolute fucking, what's it called?
Hypocrite.
Hypocrite." That's what she would say. You fucking hypocrite. And she's
I'm
right,
not even going to try and say it because it's good advice. You know it's the right. You know it's something you need to change, but it's hard sometimes.
I spend a lot of time on it, but a lot of it to these days is when I was fighting, I wouldn't answer the phone to people. Very rarely I would, unless it was important calls or it was someone I never spoke to any idiots when I was fighting, because I didn't have the time or the energy to put up with you. Now that I'm retired, I have to answer the phone to these idiots, because these idiots now I'm speaking to, I have to deal with them from day to day. So I have to deal with a lot more idiots. That means having the phone in my hand a lot more. And that's the only reason I speak to them now these days, means because you know, I've not, although I've got an awful lot going on in my life that I need to focus on, there's times when I have to put up with them. When I was fighting, I didn't have time for anything called anyone besides the fight or if you were in the close part of my team, you would have me here. You would be part of everything that's going on. So my father, the couple of lads that were with me, like Gaff, Fran, my dad, Dave Caldwell, Eddie Earn, literally them 5 or 6 people outside of that circle, nothing else mattered. Nothing.
Yeah, it's just about head down, focus, tunnel vision. You have to be.
I get occupied by a lot more these days, whether it's working with the likes of The Zone, whether it's doing my podcasts, whether it's doing, I've got other stuff coming up soon, whether it's my charity work with the foundation, Weapons Down, Gloves Up. There's so many different things that I'm on, so there's so many different types of people I've got to speak to from all different kinds of backgrounds, from all different kinds of fucking qualifications and stuff like that I'm trying to do. And it's tough, but me stuff that I'm doing now is more meaningful. It's not selfish anymore. I'm trying to help and give back a lot more these days, and I feel better for doing it, to be honest.
No, I'm loving your work on your podcast. Angry, the Ricky Gervais one was.
Oh, thanks, mate. He
was class. You're doing good things, and I'm loving you in the zone as well. I think you're. I just like because you just talk straight, Tony, man. You what you see is what you kind of get, and I appreciate that, because you see too many fakes on TV and stuff that try to be somebody else, and you're just kind of straight. Even if you piss people off,
sometimes I think. See, the good thing about it is Eddie knows me and he gets me. I'm not going to defend a fighter regardless of who he's fighting for. So if I see a matchroom fighter spew it, or if I see a matchroom fighter do the wrong thing, I'm going to call it out straight away. It's just the way it is. I don't care who you fight for, who it is. You're paying me to do a job, and I'm going to give you my analytical performance and perspective straight away. That's the way it is. So there's times when I do go against the matchroom fighter. There's times when I don't go against the matchroom fighter, but it's just an honest, straight up opinion. I try my best not to favour them. The only time I think I fall foul on that is when it's like Derek Chisora, who's close to me, he's a friend, and I try my best not to work his fights, but I've got to. When I do speak on his fight, I'm trying to speak more about the opponent than Derek now. So when I'll be working on Parker versus Chisora, I will be utmost trying my best to speak about Parker and not Derek, and say what Parker does well, say what he does and doesn't do, and things like that. So yeah, that's
Maybe
the only
just
time.
maybe just clear that up with Del Boy before the fight, so he doesn't listen back and go, Tony,
Mate,
where are you, mate?
he swear to God, he's got it in to fight me anyway. He really does. We've been friends for 20, bloody hell, what, 15, 20 years, me and Del, and we've been close all the way through our amateur careers, professional careers, and I swear to God, he'd still fight me right now. He wants one big fight against me. He's like, come back and me and you can fight each other. It'll be the best ever. And I'm like, you fucking maniac. Stay away from me. He's dying for the roll around with me. I know he is, but it's not happening, Del. So get it out of your mind. I'm not coming back. And definitely against you, I'm not coming back. So just leave me the fuck alone.
Listen, he's a. I can't believe he's still going the way he's going. I mean, I remember back to the Vitaly Klitschko fight, which, by the way, he put in a serious performance.
Yeah.
It was actually the cards, but it wasn't one sided or anything.
He
But
tried his best.
then he keeps delivering. He just delivers all the time.
Yeah, he's very dedicated. He's trying his best. This is a this is a really hard fight. Not this week, next week. It's a hard fight for him against Joseph Parker because two of them have got an awful lot to prove, and they're both coming towards the end of their careers. Like Derek won't say that, and he won't be happy that I'm saying that about him, but he is. He's not getting
Yep.
any younger, and
Yep.
neither is Joseph Parker. And I feel like I don't
Now
want
or
to go
never
on
in
for
that
too
fight,
long.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. I
Now
just
or
don't
never.
want to go on for too long. I've done an interview with him last week. I was working for the Zone and a Matchroom, and I just want him to stop before it's too. I want him to stop. I don't want boxing to stop him.
Yeah.
I want him to stop. So, we'll see how next Saturday goes. But he's in really good shape. He's trained hard, so fingers crossed he gets the job done.
No, fingers crossed. Moving through, you lost that fight to Adonis.
Oh yeah, crushed me, mate. Crushed me. That was the hardest. That's the hardest I've ever felt. I felt after the loss. It's the worst.
What was that like? That's what I wanted to know. What was your mental state like after that fight?
Dark place, mate, for a few weeks, months after, to be honest. Doubted myself. Didn't think I was good enough. Thought I've failed. 10 years I've been at that stage, been in the game 10 years, dedicated my life to boxing. This was my second world title fight, and it failed. Even though I thought I'd won the first one, I didn't get it on the decision, so I wasn't a world champion. And I didn't want to be them fellas who's the nearly guy. He just nearly got it, he nearly did, but didn't quite do it. And on that second, I genuinely thought I was going to beat Adonis Stevenson. It was only walking to the ring that I knew how bad the weight had hit me. I just knew. When I made the weight, I thought the fight was won, but I couldn't get it back in fast enough. I was dead, mate. That's no excuse, by the way. Adonis Stevenson beat me fair and square. He caught me with a shot, mate, and he's one of the hardest punches I've ever faced. He hits really hard. But that night, going to bed, you lose your world, feels like it's shattered. You cried myself to sleep in the hotel room on my own, and just thought it's a long, lonely road back. Next day, I get up and reinvent myself, and I say I'm going to Cruiserweight, and I want to fight the Welshman in a rematch because he'd just been bounced everywhere by Kovalev. So I knew I had that last option, but at the time he was still with Frank Warren, and that was the plot that I was looking for. That was the road that I took to go down the path I chose to follow. And yeah, things slowly but surely came back. But that first fight back after the Adonis Stevenson fight, major doubts. I get matched with Valerie Brudov. You've got to remember the jump from cruiserweight, light heavyweight to cruiserweight, the best part of two. It's a lot of weight. So, in your mind, I'm thinking, I've just been stopped off Adonis Stevenson at light heavyweight. How am I going to cope with these big cruiserweights? And I'd say Valery Budov in his first fight back, I think his record was something like he had a big winning record, a lot of wins. He had more wins than I'd had fights, basically. And I thought, can I do it? Can I still do it? And I just so many doubts going into my fights. Was I'm a chinny? Can I take a shot? Can I do this? Can I do that? 'Cause I'd never been stopped. And getting done the way Adonis Stevens had done me, it was a proper stoppage. I mean, the referee saved me life that night.
Yeah, it's a lot of weight. Yeah, it wasn't a good. It wasn't nice to. It wasn't a nice one to watch.
Michael
You were in the corner. Yeah. He hit you with a good couple of shots.
Catches me with one left hand, and I'm asleep on my feet. I'm knocked out on my feet, and the referee jumps in and saves me from taking another clean one. Because if that next one lands, that's the punch that does the damage. It's when you can't brace on impact, when you can't clench the gum shield down and take that shot. They're the shots that finish it off and do the damage. And I was done. I really was. So I'm 100% sure Michael Griffin, the referee, I think he's the best referee in the world, to be honest. I think he saved me life that night. I really do.
Yeah, no, it was a tough one to watch. But you talk about Budov, long night, long tough night, but you cracked him in the 12th round. Yeah. And I remember it. It was just out of nowhere. Trademark shot, left hook, and that was all she wrote. But then you went into another tough fight. You fought Masternak at the O2. That was maybe a real tough fight as well.
That was the one time that I hated Eddie Hearn in my career. I
absolutely
hated him because I just made the movie. I'd been back. I'd made the movie Creed. Creed was literally dropping 2 weeks after I fought Masternak, and I thought, why are you matching me with Mateusz Masternak, who's had more wins, who's had more knockouts than I've had wins? You know, he's only ever been stopped on his feet by Gregory Droz, who, you know, never ever fought again for some apparent, had an injury that probably means he's a drug cheat from Russia, unbelievably. But it's just crazy. And I said, why are you matching with him? And Eddie Hearn said, listen, Tone, I've invested a lot of money in you over the years. He said, and I'm at the stage now where I need to know if you can do it or not, if you can become world champion or not. And I said, well, get me a fight with a world champion. He said, no. He said, if you can't beat Mateusz Masternak, you're not going to beat any of the world champions. And I was like, you cheeky bastard. I was furious at that statement.
So basically, you need to prove to me before I put you in with one of the world champions that you can beat this guy, but you're going to have a bloody hard night's work.
Oh, mate, man. I remember I was furious with him because I wasn't getting good money for the Mateusz Masternak fight. I got crap money, if I'm being totally honest. But it wasn't his bill, it was AJ's bill. AJ was fighting Dillian White as top of the bill. And
I remember.
Chief support.
Yeah.
So when Eddie says to me, Tone, there's no more money there. You take it or leave it. Simple as that. And I was like, you cheeky bastard. I was furious. So, yeah, I took the fight. And I remember beating Mateusz Masternak and just thinking after the fight, wow, that was so hard. 2 of my eyeballs were scratched. One of my hands was smashed. My face was smashed in. I was in so much pain, but I was so proud of myself for coming through it. Mateusz Masternak was one of the toughest fights in my career. He took on a hell of a lot of punishment. I nearly stopped him in the 12th round. A really good hard fight, and that was the making of me, to be honest, Kasim. I remember Barry and Eddie coming in the dressing room after it, and I was like, I fucking told you I'd beat him, you prick. And Barry says to me, listen, son, he says, you're getting that world title fight next. He said, you've proved something to all of us tonight. He said, you've shown that you're good enough, you're tough enough, and you're strong enough at this weight. Next fight's a world title fight. They promised me, they didn't know how they were going to get it when they told me on that December night. It was December the 16th. They didn't know how they were going to do it on that day, but they found a way, and they done it, mate. So fair play.
They didn't just do it. You know, we've not mentioned this yet. You're a very, very proud Evertonian. You should be in a great mood this week. What a finish, right? That was a cracking goal to win the game and stop it in extra time. But you're very, like, when it comes to you, I mean, your entrance song is related to Everton. Yeah. Your colours are Everton. You know, I'd imagine all your boys are Everton fans. True. It's a real Everton fan. Yeah. So when did you get the news that you're going to fight at Goodison
Yeah.
against, who by the way was also dangerous fighter, Makabu. I mean, going into the fight, you dropped you early as well with a nice shot, and I feared the worst for you. But just take me to the. I've heard you talk about it a few times, but I need it on my podcast as well. Walking to the ring at Goodison.
It was unbelievable. Do you know what? It's mad because the fight I got offered before fighting Olunga Makabu was they offered me to go to Las Vegas and fight Berbert Shumanov on an Al Heyman card.
Yeah.
And the only reason I said no is because it was for the WBA regular title. And I said I'd rather fight for the belt out of the Matalan. And they just went to me, you what? And I said, Eddie, don't offer me a fight again. That's enough for a genuine world title. You get me a real world title fight. A couple of months more went by, and phoned me up. Got good news and bad news. I said, okay, what's the good news? I've got you the WBC world title fight. I said, well, there can't possibly be any more bad news. I said, what could possibly be bad news? He said, you've got to fight Olunga Makabu. And I was like, you are shitting me. I said, can it not be someone else and I defend the title against him? My first defence? Nope, it's got to be Olunga Makabu. No one knew Olunga Makabu was now. He was like, Tony's only small. And I was like, why don't you fucking fight him and see if you can become WBC champion? He's tiny, you know. He's this and he's that. And I was like, trust me, he's very good, Ed. I said, and he only gets stronger as the fights go on. I said, he beat Thabasu Makunu. I said, he starts slow, but he ends up catching up with him and knocking him out later on. He'd knocked out some heavyweights. He's a really big puncher. Southpaw short, my worst nightmare. Basically a pumped up version of Adonis Stevenson.
Yeah.
My worst nightmare going in. So
yeah.
I got a turnaround of 6 weeks to turn it round and put it at Goodison Park, which was insane to do it like that. And we had to do it on a Sunday night, a bank holiday Sunday. We managed to do it, lost all kinds of money in the process, but the greatest night by far in my whole career. I'd say life, but the wife and the kids are down the stairs, lad, so, you know.
Yeah,
I'll just say career, the greatest night in my career, mate.
Do you ever think to yourself, like, for years to come, you've got 4 kids, they're going to, God willing, go on to have wives, children, that there's going to be days at the Christmas, sitting around the Christmas, when they're going to be putting granddad's videos on, might watch Creed, might watch Creed, or you know, the grandkids might be saying, oh, we watched that last year, that's boring now, but you know, it'll still come up. But then a night like fighting at Goodison like that, that's never going to get, it's just never going to
live with my family. Hopefully it'll live with my family forever. Listen, it'll live with me forever. So that's the most important thing. It's me one night of glory. It's me the best night of my career. That's all I think about, Kasim, these days. When I think about my career, I just think about that night.
Yeah.
I know I've had other great nights and rivalries with the likes of Haye, Cleverly, rematches with the likes of Owen McKenzie, but that one crowning night at Goodison Park, that's all.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's all we career about. Me. It doesn't matter if I great the likes of Alexander Usyk, an amazing fight, the best I ever fought. But I'm sorry, even if I defeated Alexander Usyk and won all them belts, it still wouldn't have beat Goodison Park.
Doing it in front of your people, doing it in front of your family, your fan base.
Yeah, right? My son was there. The only fight my son was ever allowed to attend, and I'd done it that night, mate. So yeah, my dreams literally came true. I wished I could have played for Everton Football Club, but I wasn't good enough. I was too fat. But the best thing that ever happened, mate, was winning that world title at Goodison Park.
And getting up off the canvas to come, and that was a brutal finish as well. Once you got him hurt, you finished brutally, and he was kind of laughing at you in that fight. Yep. You know, when he dropped you for the next couple of rounds, he kept smirking at you like, you know, I'm going to, and then when the smile just came off his face.
Only a matter of time. I knew, but how he looked at me was, I'm just getting warmed up. If I can drop you in the first round, trust me, you're going to go again. Mm-hmm. And he was so confident in his ability, so confident, but I was confident in mine. I know once I really clock someone, I'll get you. I was, one thing I can give myself credit for, I was a ruthless finisher. Once I've hit you and dropped you, I'm getting rid of you. Trust me. I'm not too sure if I've ever dropped someone and not got rid of them. I can't. No, off the top of my head, I can't think of someone who had dropped them.
I can't think of too many that you.
I was a really ruthless finisher, mate. I was spiteful with it. Once I've hit you, you're done. Simple as that. But it was unbelievable that night. It's just the relief and the relief that I've done it. I'm not a bullshitter. That's the biggest thing, because I've been telling people all my life since I was 15, I'm going to win a world title at Goodison Park. I'm going to do it. I'm going to win the WBC world title. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. For years, people, he's full of shit, him. He's full of bullshit. He's lost two already. He's not good enough. It was always, I'm not good enough. I was always trying to prove everyone wrong. But that night, mate, my dreams became a reality. And upon winning that world title, just complete exultation, mate.
Listen, it was a great, superb moment in British
Thank you.
boxing. I've always been a big fan of yours. So to see you, you're an emotional guy. You wear your heart on your sleeve,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
could you could feel the energy that night. Let's go into the back end of your career then,
Yeah.
and in particular, a rivalry that just lightened up. A certain, what was it, Sideshow Bob. You're thanking YouTubers, mate, and the David Haye rivalry. The call out was brilliant. It was, again, love seeing all of that.
Yeah.
But at the time, David Haye just looked a bit like, where's this come from?
Yeah, do you know what, mate? It's the only time I went into a fight in my whole career with an agenda. When I made that first defence against BJ Flores, uh, I was already planning the fight with David A. I knew what the public wanted. David had this great comeback. He looked in phenomenal shape, to be fair.
Yeah,
And
he
in the
did.
first two fights back against Mark Namori and the Giraj fella, he looked unbelievable. He was explosive, he was powerful, he looked in great nick, and he smashed the two of them. But I knew, as an active world champion, I get past 2 rounds with him, he's done. I knew that because David was so explosive and so powerful. That kind of explosiveness and power only lasts for so long. And if you make him miss 2 or 3 times a round, believe you me, even after 3 rounds, he will be gassing. He will be blowing. So the first fight, I was nailed on. I knew I was going to beat him against all the odds. I just knew it, mate. Don't get me wrong. No one could have ever foreseen the way I'd beat him with his Achilles snapped
Listen,
in
I
the first
thought,
fight.
I'm going to say this before you go further. I thought you were going to get sparkled.
Oh, mate, everyone did.
I've just been on, like David Haye, like you say,
I know.
explosive power. I just thought Tony's bitten off more
More
than he
than
can
he can
chew
chew.
here, and he's going.
And I get it, mate. I 100% get it. I understood. I even knew there was people in my own circle who were fearing for me, but they wouldn't say it. I knew there was. Very few believed that genuinely I could beat him. I literally, on one hand, I could count how many, and that includes what's in my house as well. Uh, but I knew, one thing, as I said before, I know better than anything in life is boxing. I understand it. And I know what I had to do to beat him. And I knew if I followed it, don't get me wrong, if he cops me, I also wasn't a fool and I knew I'd go. If he catches me clean, if he catches anyone clean, he's going to knock them out. But I knew, as long as I stick to the game plan, as long as I stay focused and remain relaxed so I don't gas, I'll get rid of him. It'll only be a matter of time. The rematch was actually more dangerous than the first fight. Because in the rematch, he now knows how good I am. He thought I was shite in the first fight. He just thought he
Yeah,
was going to blow me away. And that's the reason he stays in the fight, even when he's bust his Achilles. Because he still thinks he's capable of knocking me out with one shot. Which, to be fair, he is. But he doesn't give me credit for my cuteness on the inside, being up close, still being able to make him miss and countering him. And the body shots played a massive factor in the fight. He was absolutely... Just watch the first fight back. Look at the fifth round. After 5 rounds, don't get me wrong, I think he's 3-2 ahead. I've won 2, he's won 3.
yeah.
But at the end of the fifth round, I stand in the middle of the ring and I say to him, you are blowing out your ass, you're finished now. Lo and behold, he comes out in the 6th round, and then that happens. I just could not believe what was happening. I really couldn't. And then I box absolutely dreadful from round 6 till I stopped him in round 11. I'm just trying to take his head clean off his neck because I wanted to hate him for the things he'd said to me in the build-up.
He did show, David Haye gets a lot of criticism for the toe incident and all that, but he did show heart that night. To
Immense
stay
amount of
on his
bravery,
feet, like
mate.
that thing looked like it was properly snapped, and
Mate,
to keep going, especially
immense,
against somebody who's trying
immense
to take his
amounts,
head off.
mate, immense amounts of bravery. I wish he'd have stopped because that'll have lasting effects in his life.
Yeah,
There's no two ways about it. I pounded him with everything, so brave, but it's because I'd wound him up in the build up. If
yeah.
that was against anyone else, he'd have gone. Everyone can see it's gone. We'll run it back. We'll have a rematch, and it is what it is. But because I'd wound him up, don't be getting a sore toe. Oh, have you had your makeup done? Is your little toe all right? Is your ankle okay? Is your hamstring all right? Is your bicep okay?
The mind games you've done him
Yeah.
as well,
Oh,
big
mate,
time.
I
He
just,
admits that. He
oh,
actually admits
absolutely.
that. He says
Yeah.
before the second fight, this guy is good at the mind games. I've
Yeah.
never had it like this.
because no one ever answered him back because he's usually so sharp and witty. But
Mhm.
there's no one who's going to outdo me when it comes to your mouth. There's just not going to happen, you know. No Cockney's going to outdo a Scouser when it comes to banter. It's impossible. It's never going to happen. So when I opened my mouth to him, it just I kept just getting at him, and it wouldn't be nasty stuff. Like, he said some really bad personal stuff, like he was going to put me in a coma, my family's going to visit me in hospital, all that kind of stuff. I never went that deep with him. Now, I had it in my locker. I knew there was certain things I knew about his life and his personal life, but I never said them. I wouldn't degrade myself so much. But I just played on the little things. David, you're wearing a hairband. I can't take you seriously. Have you had your nails manicured? I mean, you look like Sideshow Bob. Behave yourself. Is your bicep okay? Is your little toe still sore? As I kept prodding and prodding. If you could have seen the proper outtake of the gloves are off, he walked out that room about 4 times.
Just couldn't take it. He
He
was
just
like,
couldn't, because I kept biting him. And then
yeah.
the worst part about it all was I actually knew more about his career than he actually knows himself. So I said to him, David, you know him for spewing it. When have I ever spewed it? I haven't spewed it. I said, well, I'm not going to say Carl Thompson because Adam Booth saved you that night. I said, but me and you both know when you look me in the eyes, you spewed it against Orlando Solis in the World Championship final. You could have been the first ever British boxer to win a World Championship gold medal, and you spewed it. You hit him with your uppercut in the first round. You hit him with a punch so hard, he looked like Neo in the Matrix, the way his back went down and came up out of nowhere. I said, but because he took it, you folded. I didn't fold. I've never spewed. I said, David, you did. And it just, he lost it. He was going nuts. And
He's gone.
yeah, he was gone. But when it came to the fight, yeah, I was terrible in the first fight. I was really good for the first 5 rounds. I was making him miss. I was countering him to the body, nailing him, hitting him. And then I went nuts after that. But I put everything to bed in that rematch, mate. He came into the rematch. There was nothing wrong with him then. I went.
It was a clean knockout, no drama, no
I actually think
controversy.
that's the best performance of my career. When you look at who it's against, the pressure on my shoulders, the fact that I just lost my brother, it was the worst moment in my life. And once again, I was selfish, took myself to camp. I was going through hell in that camp. I'll never understand how I got through it. So much turmoil in my personal life and at home. But when that night came, once again, I shown that I can switch off and take myself to another place. And I was brilliant that night. I was razor sharp.
You must
I
be
honestly think I
going
could have
through
beat
these
anyone
things.
that
Your
night.
mother-in-law losing your. I've lost a younger brother,
Yeah,
and I couldn't see myself going into I played cricket. I
yeah.
couldn't see myself even going out to play a cricket match.
Oh
Near
mate.
after my brother passed away, for you to go in the ring, but it just strikes me, Tony, as you got like a really strong mind when you need to switch
Yeah,
on.
I can. You know what, mate? I can distance myself from things, and I don't know how I do it. I really don't, because I struggle doing it now. I know there's certain things I need to distance myself from, and what's going on now, but I can't anymore because I haven't got that sole focus and goal that I had when I was fighting. But it's life, man. It is what it is. But I say, mate, that David Day rematch put it all to bed. I boxed brilliantly. I studied the first fight religiously, seen the mistakes that he made, seen the mistakes that I made even in the first fight, and everything I said before both of them fights came true exactly the way I said it would. I told him his body would give in on him. I told him I would do him before the first fight. I said to him, I'll find me a moment, I'll find me time, and I will get rid of you. I did in the first fight, and his body did give up on him. In the rematch, I knew he'd be 100% and he would come in firing, but I also knew this time he would respect me. He respected me power, he respected me boxing ability, he respected me the way I could make him miss. So in the rematch, I knew I was facing a really dangerous David A, someone who was going to try and box, use his speed and his power and his explosiveness to his advantage. He didn't come in this time swinging for the light. He came in and tried to put me on a jab and set me up. And what he soon found out is I've got a far better boxing brain than he has, and I was able to trap him and draw him in and draw him in, and I just exploited him. I exploited all his weaknesses straight away, mate. Immediately, from the first knockdown, it was just brutal. I just took him apart. I didn't take anything back in return. I just took him apart, mate. As I say, so really good display for the rematch. I was really happy with it, and then I was allowed time away then to just relax with my family and go away and take into consideration what had gone on in my personal life, which was very, very odd. I basically retired then. I was retired. I went away and got married. I fought with David in the May. and got married in the July. I was retired, mate. I wasn't going to
Your
fight.
wife, your wife, I think she wanted you to call. She wanted
Yeah,
to call it a day,
she
didn't she?
wanted me to call the day after Goodison Park, but I was so far away from financial security that I couldn't. David Haye's 2 fights with me secured me and my whole family financially for good. You know, them 2 fights generated insane amounts of money. You know, you're talking double-digit millions when you put them together. It's
Listen,
unbelievable.
you put your body in the line, you put your life in the line every time you get in the ring. You're going in with a guy who's a heavyweight champion, ruthless puncher. I don't think too many people were calling his name out. I seen let's talk about that. You had your confrontation with Wilder. That was
Yeah,
brilliant, man. I've watched that on YouTube a few times. But I remember you saying to him, like, I've fought against a guy that none of the heavyweights were calling out David Haye.
yeah. None of them want to touch him, and I always understand why they didn't want to fight David. David's greatest attribute is his speed and explosiveness, as I've said a couple of times tonight. But he's only got that speed advantage against heavyweights who are slower than him.
Yeah.
He's faster than all the heavyweights. I'm not a heavyweight. I'm a cruiserweight. I'm a light heavyweight comes a cruiserweight. I had 4 quicker people than me. He wasn't that quick to me. So when it comes to fighting him, I wasn't bothered. But these heavyweights, he's got a speed advantage over every single one of them. The only one he wouldn't have a speed advantage over now is Usyk. With every other one, he'd have a speed advantage over them. That means that he lands first, and he only needs one big clean shot to land. He's so quick. So that's why none of the heavyweights wanted to touch him with a barge pole. And I did, as I say, I knew his advantages wouldn't work against me. So when it comes to the Wilder fight, I basically Wilder was in town for Klitschko and AJ, and I'm working for Sky Box Office at the time, and they're screaming bomb squad all over the place, and I just said, listen, lad, I don't need a fucking squad. I come on my own. I said, I was the bomber way before you. Let's just get that straight. And you're like, who the fuck's this guy and all that, and then that was his brother shouting that, but Deontay knew I was straight away.
Yeah.
And I said, he starts walking towards me. To be fair, the fucking closer he got, the bigger he got. From about 60, 70 meters away, it didn't seem that big. When he got to like 4 meters away, I was like, fucking hell, should have just kept my mouth shut. He's massive. But yeah, I just said, listen, I said, I've fought once at heavyweight, and already my one fight at heavyweight is better than your whole resume at heavyweight, and your heavyweight WBC heavyweight champion of the world. How is that even possible? And he's like, oh man, you fought an old washed up David. I said, don't worry, in the rematch I'm going to spank him because I've been only fought once at this stage. And he's like, nah man, David will knock you out now, he takes you seriously and stuff like that. And I was like, we'll see, whatever. But yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I was all for fighting Deontay Wilder, if I'm being totally honest, until he put his hand on my hand and we clapped hands on the night of the Klitschko AJ fight, and he hugged me, and when he hugged me, at that moment, as he hugged me and put his arm around me, that fight was never happening. He was far too big, mate. I'm not about
I
that.
wouldn't. I don't think I would. I don't think at your stage of your career as well, Tony. I don't think that would have been
No,
I mean,
he was huge.
I think you could. I think you could have boxed with him, but it's
Do
just
you know what, mate? I'll make a fool of someone like Deontay Wilder for about 8, 9 rounds, but
if
then
yeah,
he's gonna get me. And
if he connects, it even
yeah,
showed against Fury, who's 6 foot whatever 9,
nine.
and he clocked him in late in the first fight.
To be fair, you know what? I'll be making a fool of him, making him look stupid, but I'm not stupid enough to think I'd go in there and not get hit. He's gonna catch me, and the worst part about it is he's got a really good chin, Deontay Wilder. The way to
Which just
beat him
showed
is
in that last
yeah,
fight.
the way to beat him is to tire him out and zap him and drain him, and then knock him out. I purely do not have the size and weight to tire and drain him. He would just be a chasing match against me, and I would have to keep counter punching and pot shotting him. At some point or another, he would have caught me and caught me, and that would have been the end of me. I'm honest enough to admit that to myself. I'm not one of these fighters who go, I could have beat him. Oh yeah, I could have beat him for 7 or 8 rounds. But he's going to get me in round 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
So it's simple as that. Good fighter, really strong puncher. I feel there's so much I could help that boy with. There really is, mate. He just needs to work on certain things, certain areas, and needs tipping in the right direction. And he'd still be a very, very dangerous
He's
goalkeeper.
still very dangerous. I mean, okay, Fury's got his number. That
Yeah.
chapter closed. He still could.
Oh, mate, listen,
A lot of heavyweights he could still
he's
do
the
damage to.
he's the most dangerous heavyweight in the world. with one punch. No two ways about it.
I always
There's
think
butcher.
AJ could box him, but I always think if he got AJ in trouble,
Oh man, listen, AJ has to go for him. He can't be boxing Deontay
yeah,
Wilder. He has to meet him in a firefight because if he tries to box him and stay away, don't get me wrong, he could box him, draw him in, and do him, but it would be so much riskier to box someone like Wilder on the back foot. He would have to. It would be front foot pressure behind a good tight guard and look to nail him every time he twitches and moves. Simple as that. That's the way you beat Deontay Wilder. But if you can't stand there and hold and maintain your feet, he's gonna get you. You can't run, you can't dance around him. You've got to apply front foot pressure and put him on his heels. And upon putting him on his heels, you've got to keep nailing him hard, making him think twice about going again himself.
great insights. Let's get to the stage where what makes you think. I remember it just coming out on Twitter or something. I just seen it that Tony Bellew just wants to fight Alexander Usyk, and I'm thinking, is that like this guy's meant to be like pound for pound up there as one of the
I
best?
didn't. I didn't actually. I mean, I was retired and I was on my honeymoon with
Oh,
my
did he
missus,
not? He mentioned you, didn't
and
he?
he shouted my name. Yeah. So to be fair to Alexander, he's been very complimentary of me. But he said when I left the cruiserweight division, he thought I was the best cruiserweight in the world.
Yep.
He'd just beaten Glavatsky for the WBO title, and as I was just leaving the cruiserweight division, or it might have been even been just before, he was scheduled to face Glavatsky. He wasn't a world champion yet. When I left the cruiserweight division, yeah, he was still a 10 round fighter. So I knew he was coming. I knew how good he was. I sparred with him when I was on a GB squad in Ukraine many years before. I knew how good he was. But yeah, he goes in the WBSS. I fight 2 fights with David. I'm set now. I've been British Commonwealth, European World Champion. I'm retired. I'm done. I'm married. My life's over in the boxing world. I'm happy being a pundit now and doing what I'm doing. And I remember just being on my honeymoon and hearing this fella who couldn't speak a single word of English. Tony Bellew. I want Tony Bellew. And I thought, you cheeky bastard. Yeah, and then made the phone call to Eddie, pissed us off out while I was on my honeymoon. Another
Make the
reason why you
fight,
shouldn't
Eddie.
go out. Yeah, you shouldn't go out with your phone when you've been intoxicated. Phoned Eddie in before I knew the fight was made. But yeah, he called me name. I have no regrets. I got in the best shape I could possible. I had an awful lot of weight to lose after that honeymoon, but it doesn't bear no complexion on the fight. I was in unbelievable
You
shape
fought a
when I
blood.
got
No,
into
you
the ring.
fought like one of the best. But like you put it on. You came out and you.
I came up with a plan, mate. I came up
Yeah.
with a game plan, and I was executing it perfectly. But the difference is, mate, I got tired. And you know why I got tired? Because he made me tired. I was
Yeah.
exhausted. He was so good at what he done. The front foot pressure, consistently being in range all the time with the front foot, it exhausted me. Me thinking, I wasn't. It's mad because I wasn't physically tired. I was mentally exhausted. And literally, my brain could no longer function on the level that his was. And I had so much admiration for him before I fought him, and even more after I fought him. He's that good. I knew how good he was before I fought him, but actually being in the ring with him and doing things to fight is what I've been doing all my career, making them miss by short amounts, countering them over the top. Because I say it's only later on in my career where people give me credit for my actual boxing ability. And going into that fight, I just feel everyone thought I only had a puncher's chance. So when I start out boxing the boxer, and now people see how good what he's gone on to do since fighting me,
Yeah.
people are like, fucking hell, Tony Bellew was actually good, wasn't he? Because he was beating him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was beating him after going into that 8th round when I got stopped. But ultimately, mate, he's a better fighter than me, Kasim. And sometimes you just have to hold your hands up and say, I lost to the better man. He's the best I ever fought. He's fantastic at what he does. He really is. I can't credit him enough. Believe you me, he's only going to get better and stronger the longer he stays a heavyweight. I just hope his stay isn't too long in the game now, because from where he's at now and the stage at in his career, he's only going to get slower and he's only going to get heavier. And that's the worrying factor for him. He gets too slow and too big.
Yeah, because he's small compared to all these
He's
giants.
the exact same size as me, 6'3", same build as me. He's gained about 5 or 6 kilos of muscle since me and him fought, and he looks in great shape. But he's at the limit now of where he can possibly go weight wise, and I just don't want to see him go on much longer, mate. But I have all the admiration in the world for him. What a fighter, what a man, and I only wish him luck for the future.
Here's a question for you then, Tony. There's a lot of talk right now in the media that money is going to get offered to AJ to step aside. Eddie's on record as saying we'll look at it and we'll discuss it.
Yeah.
What would you do? You want to see Joshua go straight into a rematch with him, or would you rather see Usyk and Tyson Fury fight?
Do you know what, mate? It doesn't matter what I'd like to see. It matters what AJ wants to do, because there's so much confusion going on at the minute around AJ and his team, training wise, and what he's doing outside the gym, and there's so much going on. What I will say is, going into a rematch with such a quick turnaround period as what he's got, he hasn't got no time to make the adjustments that he needs to make, and it puts massive amounts of stress and pressure on him. So I would say it's very dangerous going into a rematch and changing teams all in one move. That's very, very hard. He's got so much to weigh up, but we'll see. He knows going into a rematch he has to just go in and fight. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
don't
go put it on him.
don't ask a dog to be a cat, mate. You're a fighter. You're known for your explosive power and your speed. Go in and use them. Don't try and turn into Muhammad Ali overnight. It's not going to happen. You go in and you use your attributes to the best of your ability. Your attributes are your explosive power, your speed, and your feet. He's got really good feet for the big heavyweight, AJ. Close the space down and explode. Let your hands go. Don't worry about getting tired. Just do what you need to do. And he knows that, because he's been in the game long enough now, and he's big enough and ugly enough to know what he has to do. He's just got to go in there and do it. Much, much easier said than done, by the way, especially against a man who's of the calibre of Alexander Usyk. But that's the truth. That's what he needs to do.
That's
So
what we
good
want to
for
see
him.
as well, though. That's what we want to see. We want to see the best fighting the best.
Oh,
And we all
definitely.
knew that Usyk fight was dangerous. Anyone that thought Joshua was just going to walk in and wipe the floor with him was never going to be the case.
As I heard, mate, in the bill, oh, he's just a cruiserweight. He's not just any
He's not
cruiserweight.
just any
He's the
cruiserweight.
greatest cruiserweight who's ever been born, mate. He's the greatest cruiserweight ever. That's how good he is. He would beat any cruiserweight from any era ever. He's that good.
Do you think he could
Once
beat Fury?
I don't think he's big enough.
Yeah, I don't think he's big enough either. I
I,
think
that's the
Fury would.
only that's the only thing that beats him, mate, is size. Because Fury is not a better boxer than Alexander Usyk. He doesn't have the skill set that Alexander Usyk's got, but what he does have is the sheer size and the sheer reach to just dismiss him,
Yeah.
just to purely keep him away from him. If he doesn't want Alexander Usyk to get close to him, he won't. And that's sad, Kasim, because no fighter should ever lose purely because of size, and he is going to lose because of size, and that's sad.
No, I agree. I think in that fight, Tyson Fury just size is going to play a big part, even though they say size doesn't matter. But in that, I think it does matter in that fight.
He will just take everything away from him. He will just he will just defuse every good thing that he does by keeping him at bay, banging hard jabs into his face, banging hard jabs into his chest, slapping him out. He will keep him away.
Yeah.
That's how it'll go.
How's how are you? Because you strike me as a guy that like probably gets itchy every now and then walking around the house. Is sparring and stuff keeping you all right? You're not going to decide
I
to.
don't spar, mate. I haven't punched someone in the face for nearly, is it 4 years this year? Yeah, I think it's 4 years this
Well,
year
that's
since I've
good.
been
That's
injured.
good, Tony. That's good. But I mean, I'm assuming you still punch a bag or something just to let.
Yeah, I do. At the minute, I'm doing a bit of training because I've got something coming early next year. I'm not going to fight, but I've got to do a bit of punching again. I'm just trying to get in shape. I've got to be in decent shape for what's coming early next year. So we'll see, mate. But I'm not going to fight again. I made a promise to my kids and my wife that I'd stop. I've put them through enough, and I've been selfish enough for long enough. Enough's enough. It's not dead in me, because I look at the fights and still being in and amongst the circus that boxing is. A part of me says to myself at times, do you know what? I know I could beat X, Y, and Z, but could it be the best? Could it be the proper undisputed champ? Could it better what I've already done? No, I couldn't. So there'd be no point in coming back. I don't believe in coming back for scraps. I don't believe in coming back and stealing a world title dead quick and then getting off is the right thing to do. It's not. If you're gonna come back to be the best, and I couldn't be the best now. So there's no point.
Well, listen, I'm happy to hear that because I think what you achieved in boxing is just phenomenal, and
Thank you.
I don't think you need to be thinking about that. Now let's get to present time. You're a very handy pundit. You're one of the main men in the zone. How's that? How do you think that's all going? Do you think that's it's all going in the right direction?
Yeah, I think it's massive. I think the platform is growing literally day by day. The big fights we're putting on all the time. I mean, it's upset city at the zone quite frequently. It's we've had upset after upset after upset. If it wasn't if it wasn't Lopez and Cambosos the other week, there's just been so many, as I say, upset after upset. You know, we had Dillian White against Povetkin. There's just so many, mate, to name. I'm not even sure if that was on the zone actually. That might have been, no, that was with Sky. The upsets we've had on the zone, bloody hell. Baumgardner against Harper the other week. Kid Galahad getting knocked out of Kiko Martinez.
Well, that came quick, right out of the blue. I
Mate,
didn't
Josh
expect.
Warrington losing to Lara. There's just so many upsets that we've had on the zone, and it's because we're making good fights all the time. So there's going to be upsets. It's simple as that, and you've got to just accept them and keep moving on. Eddie is making the best fights he possibly can. As I say, if Eddie can get more of a foothold on the fighters that need to be fighting more, because you know the likes of Javante Davis don't fight enough. We
Yeah.
don't see enough of them. The likes of Shakur Stevenson, I'd love to see him with us. You know, fighting. You know, the best fighters all the time. There's so many fights who I'd like to see us get. I'd say Lopez last week fighting Cambosos. We would love to see him fight. We want to see who can Cambosos go in against now. The likes of Devin Haney. All these fights need to happen, but there's so many managers, agents, promoters with all different agendas, and their agendas are to fight or not to fight each other. Eddie Hearn's agenda is literally quite simple. I want the best to fight the best, and there's not really many other promoters out there that want to do that. So hopefully he can get more of them on board with us at the zone, and we can start fulfilling fight fans' dreams.
Listen, I'm loving it. I'm a subscriber to the
Thank you.
platform. I enjoy it. Big fan of Matchroom. That's me. That's me. Had Barry on the podcast now. I've had Tony Bellew. I'm chasing the tail of Eddie Hearn. I'm going to get that one. I'm going to get that eventually.
Good luck with
But
Steady Eddie, mate. He's hard. He's a busy man to nail down. He's non-stop, to be fair.
he's on a plane every other day. He's here next. He's on the next fight. He's
To
in
be
this.
fair
So
play to him, he's the hardest working man I've come across in boxing. The boy
no,
never stops. I tell him all the time
anyone
he's
that
got a gym.
tries to doubt and say that he doesn't does it. I mean, he just keeps delivering shows. He's the one that's
Be honest.
changed British boxing. He's a massive part of it.
He should just glue his phone to the side of his face because it never leaves his face, mate. It's just he's
He's just
constantly on the
constant.
phone, constantly making deals. If he's not on the phone, he's in a meeting. It's as simple as that. If he's not on the phone, he's in a meeting, making another fight, making something else happen, doing something for the business, representing some of his fighters, helping them get along the way. He's a breath of fresh air for boxing, mate, and it's amazing how hard the lad works.
And it comes through. Obviously, the family route is
Oh,
dad's a legend. Dad's a legend as well. Changed the face of sport in Britain. But look, Tony, it's been honestly, it's been a pleasure, man. I've been a big fan of you for years. I was very excited about speaking to you. You've given me
absolute pleasure, Kasim.
some
Thank you
great
very
chat.
much for having me, mate.
And I wish you, I want you to stay on for 1 minute
No
after the
problem, of
recording. I
course.
just want to say to you all the best for your podcast, with the zone stuff.
Oh, thank
Keep
you.
smashing it, man. You're doing it. You're doing brilliant, and I enjoy seeing you.
Thanks very much, mate. I'm trying my best and stay in touch, lad. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.